You may have anticipated that when you got to seventh grade, you would finally start getting letter grades, A's, B's, C's, and you would start collecting a grade point average or a GPA. And that used to be true. But now, as an IB school, North and West Junior High give IB scores instead of points, percents, and letter grades. So, what does that mean for you? What's the difference between a point and a score? They're both numbers. So they look a lot like each other, and it can be easy to mix them up. Points, if you get 4 points out of 8 on an assignment, your teacher would divide 8 into 4, and that's 50%. And usually 50% is considered failing. So you would know, ooh, I didn't understand this. I need to do more work. Big difference with IB scores. A 4 on the IB rubric, each number has a description that goes with it. And a 4 is actually good quality work. It's not the same as 50%. It's not the same as failing. It doesn't mean that the work has gotten easier. It just means teachers have a better way to communicate how well you know information and what you can do with it. So points accumulate, they add up over time. So if you had 3 assignments in a unit, 6 points, 7 points out of 10, and then you got 12 points out of 15, and we added those up, you would get 25 points out of 35. If we did the math, you would get 71%, which is usually a C minus. This means that at the beginning of the term, your points need to be just as high as they are at the end of the term so that you can get a good final grade. And if you are just brand new learning the material, you're still expected to perform at a really high level. So you get worried about making mistakes or not understanding it or doing it wrong. And sometimes people stop doing the work because they're so afraid they're not going to get a good score. So here's the big difference between points and scores. Scores communicate how well you know the information and what you can do with it. So you're actually going to get written feedback on your formative and summative assignments that tells you you're in this band, in the 5-6 band of the rubric, and here's how well you know and can do. And you can look in the bands below where you scored to understand, how do I keep getting better? What do I need to add to my work so that I can score even higher on the rubric? And here's the great part, that over time, if you start out at the beginning of the year when you're just learning information in this 3 band, and then over time by the end of the year, you can get in the 6 or even the 7 or 8 band, your final score in the course will be based on where you grew to. We're not going to add the 3s and the 5s and the 7s and then divide them up and come up with a final score. We're going to look for the trend in your scoring, and we're looking for you to go from beginning to progressing to mastering and to excelling. So you get to start out at the beginning of the year trying things, being as smart and risk taking as you can. But if you make mistakes, it's okay, because you get a chance to learn from them and continue to improve. So that is our IB scores and how they work over time. Every class you're in has 4 criteria. Criteria just tell us, what do we want you to know and do by the end of the year? And so in individuals and societies, which is social studies, for example, the 4 criteria are knowing and understanding, investigating, communicating, and thinking critically. In 7th grade, 8th grade, and 9th grade, in your social studies class, you'll always work on these 4 things. And in all of your classes, the words on the criterion will look a little bit different, but they're really about the cycle of learning. Criterion A is mostly about learning the information, learning the words. This is the stuff that you're used to school being about, learning your vocabulary, learning the facts, learning how to talk about something. Criterion B, you're actually starting to do something with those words and those skills. You're investigating, you're researching, you're going deeper. Criterion C, you're actually using what you've learned to create something. So you're communicating, or you're writing a text, or you're performing something. And then in criterion D, this is where we think about our thinking. You're reflecting, you're evaluating, you're putting it to use in the world, you're understanding, why does this learning matter and how can I keep moving? So that's what your scores will be based on in all of your classes. We'll report your scores using numbers from 1 through 8. So if you're in that 1 or 2 band, that means you're beginning. 3, 4, you're progressing. When you get to that 5, 6 band, you're actually starting to master the material. And that's the level that we're hoping you can get to by the end of the school year. And then that 7, 8 band means you're really pushing yourself above and beyond. This is a subject area you're strong in and that you really enjoy, and that you can really make it the learning your own. But again, you have the whole school year to begin and then to progress and to master and to excel. And you might have some classes where you're at the excelling level early in the year, and you might have other classes where you work really hard just to get to mastery. And that's okay. And so the scores will look like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. At the end of the year, your scores will be a 1 through 7. And there's a description of what does that mean. You're doing generally high quality work, you're communicating an understanding of your concepts and contexts. So there we'll know a lot about what it is that you are able to learn and do in all 8 subject areas by the end of the year, and your score will communicate how well you're doing. What will it look like in Infinite Campus? You'll have a number. Again, it's a score. It's not points. It communicates information about your learning. So you can see, don't worry about the colors on this, because this just means some of these grades had been posted and some hadn't yet. But you can see the student got a 4, a 7, a 5, a 6, 6, 4, 5, 6. These are all scores that say that they're doing good quality work or above. And that's what you'll be able to see in progress in Infinite Campus, and then you'll be able to see your final scores in Campus. What kinds of things get scored with our IB numbers? Formative assessment and summative assessment are what gets scored. You might take a quiz, for example, in a class that's worth 32 points. Those 32 points aren't going to be part of your final grade. That's just the way that our Canvas system does quizzes. So you might do work that has points attached to it, but those won't be in our Infinite Campus gradebook, and they won't be factored into your final grade. So it's your formatives, which is assessment for learning. That's where we figure out how you doing. Do we need to change what we're teaching? Do you need to change the way you're learning? How can we help each other so that you are continuing along the road to mastery? And then summative assessment is where you feel ready and you show us what you know and can do. And you'll be able to tell from the names of an assignment whether it's a formative assessment or a summative assessment. And again, we expect that your scores will change and grow over time as you get more confident and grow in your learning. The other thing that you will get feedback on are these skills that are so important to being not only a successful student, but also a successful citizen and human. We need to be able to communicate, to think, to collaborate, which means working well with each other. We need to be able to take care of ourselves, self-management, our stuff, our time, our emotions, and we need to be able to do research. We need to understand how to use our iPads and use digital media and find the information we need. And we want to give you the skills you'll need to be able to do these things and feedback on how well you're doing. So you will get scores on these ATL, they're called approaches to learning. They're the skills you need to be able to learn, and you will get a score based on how well you can communicate, collaborate, and your teachers will tell you, here's the skill we're learning. You'll practice it, and then you'll get some feedback. And that will also be in our Infinite Campus gradebook. So that is the big picture of what IB scores look like. Remember, each class you go into are going to have these 4 criteria, and that's what you'll get scores based on. So you can throw away asking, how many points is this worth, or is this worth points? Everything you do in class, we're looking to see how much stronger are you getting in developing yourself as an IB learner.